topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert Show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from experts on such topics as legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to our experts in community association law, estate planning law, tax relief, Medicare, public insurance adjusters, neuropathy treatment, business brokers, and personal injury law, along with many other topics. Now here's your host for the last 17 years, Steve O.
Hey, good afternoon, Tennessee and Missouri, my home state of St. Louis, Missouri. Welcome to the Ask the Experts radio show. This is a live show. For the next 25 minutes, we are going to have it's like one of our top shows now. We talk about tax relief. And, I hope what you can get out of this show is you don't want to go up against the dreaded IRS yourself, especially when we have such a great expert on with Attorney Lance Drury of the Drury Law Firm. I got to tell you, folks, for the next 25 minutes, I want you just to sit back, and I hope you learn. This is an educational show. This is not some kind of a commercial show. We actually educate you. Let me welcome my friend, Attorney Lance Drury.
It's great to see you, Steve. Like I said earlier, it's been a while. It's been 2.5 weeks. We very seldom go that long without seeing each other.
I know. Listen, I got to tell you, our shows are so booked up. We're adding another 2 hours just to accommodate all of our people on our waiting list. But you always got first choice with us. Lance's show, he's been doing the show with us a little over a year now. And we have people who've been with us 15, 16 years. And I got to tell you, this show has taken off faster than any show we've ever done. I'm looking at our TikTok. We've almost got over 1,000 likes already, which is amazing. And we're just starting the show. But what I'm hoping that you're going to get out of the show today is you do not want to go up against the IRS yourself. I don't care how good a negotiator you are, unless you've gone up against the IRS before, you need to leave to the experts. And Lance, we've got so many new people. Could you tell people about your law firm?
Steve, we represent individuals and businesses that have problems with the IRS and also with various state agencies. And I like what you just said about not trying to do this yourself, Steve, because I got an example from this morning. The woman's hiring me tomorrow. I'm going to meet her in my St. Louis office, and she's already agreed to sign off. She's been doing this for years. She had an accountant helping her. They're showing all these unfiled returns, which she claims she's filed. And they said she owes $95,000, and she says she paid it off, and they don't recognize it. And so, it's going to be, she's now got a revenue officer. They're filing a federal tax lien. She told them she wouldn't do that. She went ahead and did it anyway. So she's going to hire us because she's tired of doing it on her own. And I got to tell you, Steve, accountants are great with the numbers, but 90% of what they do is tax preparation. I tell everybody they're great at what they do, but they don't deal with the IRS every day. We do. We spend 50 to 100 hours a year just keeping up on this. And the IRS is so screwed up that they make mistakes all the time, and they're taking advantage of people. That's why you need professional help.
Well, Lance, your show is so easy to do, mainly because our listeners and viewers are constantly writing questions in. We don't have to eat. Lance has no idea what I'm going to ask him. We strictly go off after your questions. And by the way, for our TikTok audience, if you have a question, please put it in the chat line. We will try to get it on. We've got so many questions for Lance today. And Lance, I got to start off with this one. It's from TikTok. He said, I believe you have the best educational show on TikTok. I know people make mistakes. I have made mistakes. Can you tell me what those mistakes, how do they lead to an audit?
What happens is the IRS will flag your tax return if there's something that looks out of whack, like your income is underreported because they get your 1099s, W-2s from various people. And if they don't match up, that's a red flag for an audit. The other thing is particularly if you're self-employed, or even if you're a W-2 and you take deductions and they seem to be way too high, then you're going to get flagged for an audit as well. But the thing is, you got to be conservative on that tax return. You do not want to be audited. That is an extremely time-consuming and expensive process. And the problem is, if they start with 1 year and they find a problem with that 1 year, they're going to expand that audit to other years. Now, sometimes they start off with more than 1 year, but you don't want to get audited from the IRS. You don't want to fudge the numbers. Send it, because then there can be penalties. There could be potential fraud if it's big enough. You don't want to do that. So, just don't ignore it. Prepare the return as accurately as possible. But if you do get targeted, take care of it right away. Don't try to do it yourself. I've seen audits go criminal just because of what the taxpayers told the IRS during the audit.
Lance, I don't think by the letters that we get, I don't think people realize you've got so many ways to fight the IRS in your tool chest, don't you?
That's exactly right. There are various methods that we can use. And one of the biggest is that people don't know about when they do this on their own is that once we go through the financial statements, and we have to go through financial statements because we have to prove to the IRS that the taxpayer doesn't have the ability to pay all the taxes back that are owed to the IRS. And so one of the things is, when we get through that, we can perhaps give people advice on how to structure their assets and their expenses so they get a better deal out of Uncle Sam. I'm just going to give you a small example, Steve. Several years ago, I represented a woman who owed over $40,000 to the IRS. And so we went through her financials 3-4 times. We got to do that. We got to make sure they're right, because you're submitting that under penalties of perjury. And it showed she could pay $600 a month. Well, the collection statute still had 4 years, so she was going to pay about $30,000, almost 75% of what she owed to the IRS back. So I called her up one day and I said, "You need to go out and buy a new car." She goes, "They're going to let me buy a new car when I owe them all this money?" I said, "Yeah, you got a car with 200,000 miles. You have no car payment. You're entitled to a reliable vehicle. You keep going at $600 a month. You keep that car. The car is going to break down. You're going to pay the repair bill. There's not going to be any money left over to pay the IRS. They're going to default you on the agreement, and you've wasted every last dime in hiring me." So she went out. She got a car payment, $500 a month. So she paid the IRS $100 a month for 4 years. So over time, Steve, over time, because there is a time value to money, she paid less than $5,000 on a $40,000 plus.
Wow. Unbelievable. I'm not surprised, though, Lance. I'm not surprised. Let me get to, here's Jerome in Nashville. This is a good question. My concerns with hiring a firm like yours is, will the IRS look at my situation any different? In other words, will they come down on me for hiring a professional like your firm?
Actually, for the most part, it's the exact opposite. This woman told me this morning she got an RO and she said the RO was walking all over. The RO said, we're not going to file a lien. She filed a lien. So normally when a professional gets involved, then they know the taxpayer is serious about getting their problem resolved, and they're not going to treat us like they treat a regular taxpayer. Let me just tell you from my experience what happens. And this happens with small businesses. Normally it's payroll taxes. They get a summary of taxpayer contact. They send it into the tax examiner. They think they've sent everything in, but they haven't because it's confusing. It's complicated. The next thing they know, they're getting levied. Their bank account's been wiped out. They're coming after them. They're going after their clients for the accounts receivable because it says at the bottom of that 9297 that if you don't get us all the information by X date, one of the consequences is a levy. They don't do that with us. We send it in. We say, if you don't have everything you need, let us know. We'll send it to you. So that's what they do. They're basically better with us than they would ever be with a lay person because they're just going to wipe them out. They take advantage of lay people. So you do need professional help. In fact, today, one of my new attorneys told me, she said, this person called up, this RO, and said, revenue officer wanted to do a trust fund penalty interview. And she goes, well, I know you're not going to do it because you work for Lance Drury, and he never does, though. I'm not going to send my client in to confess to a felony. The statute for that is identical to the federal statute for tax evasion, so we never go in. They know who the responsible party is for a small business. They don't need to do it. They're just trying to get more information against the client.
Mike in St. Louis, you're close to your home grounds. He's a business owner. He says, as a business owner, I really enjoy your show. Is it hard or can it be done? Can a business owner apply for a hardship relief?
They can, but here is the problem, and it has happened, is that part of the problem is the business really viable? And so if they've got, so what you're going to have to do, if you want to do that, and any business has to do this anyway, or any individual has to do this to get an agreement, you got to be compliant moving forward. So if you're in a situation where you're now paying your taxes on time, you're filing on time moving forward, then that can happen. And, sometimes people, because the business is not doing all that good or they're going through hard times, they'll put their own money into the business, which is okay. But make sure you have a paper trail for that because the IRS is going to assume that any money that goes into your bank account and you don't document the source of that is business income. So you got to keep that in mind if you're going to do that. It has happened. We have done it, but it is probably a little harder for a business to do that than an individual.
Hank in Creve Coeur. Oh, I've got a relative in Creve Coeur. Thank you for your show. Can your firm help me get rid of my IRS penalties? And if so, how does that work?
Well, there's two ways to get rid of your IRS penalties. One is there's such a thing called first-time penalty abatement. You got to be compliant before the year or the tax liability period that you're asking for the penalty abatement, but it only applies to one tax liability period. The other way is reasonable cause. You got to have a good reason to get the penalties abated. We've done that before, but they just don't go away because I just can't call them up and say, Joe's a good guy, forgive the penalties. We have to have documentation. One of the biggest one is if you got erroneous advice from a taxpayer or from the IRS, or if you have a medical condition or a family member had a medical condition. Those are the most common grounds that you can get penalty abatement for. It does happen, but everybody's circumstances are different. I'm going to say maybe 30 to 40% of the time we can get penalty abatement for reasonable cause, maybe a little less than that.
Renee in Nashville, I have owed back taxes for 2 years, but I haven't received a letter from the IRS. Should I contact your office now and get ahead of it, or wait till I get a letter from the IRS?
No, you need to get ahead of it because that's going to give us more time to get it worked out. And here's the other problem. And I think I've talked about this on your show before, Steve, but it bears saying again. Now is like the worst time. It's the worst of both worlds for taxpayers. Why do I say that? Number one, the IRS is not properly staffed. They don't have enough people. The service is not good. They are not trained properly. Everything is taking forever. They make mistakes left and right. So if you got a problem, it's going to take a longer time than it did in the past to get it resolved, even if you hire us. But secondly, and this is why I say it's the worst of both worlds, is in 2025, the IRS collected twice as much back taxes as they had previously. Why? Because they're now employing artificial intelligence for all of those nasty letters. And the time frame between those nasty letters is collapsing. They're coming after people much quicker. So, if you got a problem, it's going to take forever to resolve, but you want to get ahead of it because once they start that sequence of letters, if you just ignore them, eventually they're going to zap you, which means they can wipe out your bank account, take up to 90% of your take-home pay, 100% of your 1099s. How are you going to live? How are you going to pay the bills? How are you going to feed the kids? It's not going to happen. So get on it as soon as you can. Get ahead of the game. Be proactive.
Ray in Clarksville, we get a lot of questions like this. What can your firm do if I don't have the money to pay my back taxes?
We can do a lot because it's all based on your ability to pay. 85 to 90% of our clients never pay back the full amount. 10 to 15% never pay a dime, but it's a lot of work for us and it's a lot of work for you. I just can't call them up and say, Joe's a great guy. We have to do all this work. We have to go through financial statements, bank statements, credit card statements, debit card statements, because for certain categories of expenses, we have to prove to the satisfaction of the IRS that you don't have the ability to pay this back. And invariably, when people fill out the financial statements, they put a number down. Then when we ask for substantiation, guess what? The numbers don't match up. And we got to make sure the numbers match up for two reasons. I said earlier, because you're submitting these for under penalties of perjury. But secondly, guess what? You give us bad numbers, we're going to give you bad advice. So we spend more time, Steve, compiling and analyzing financial information than anything else we do. And if we have to go through that 3, 4, 5 times, we're going to do it because we got to get those numbers down right. And we got to try and get our client the best possible deal that we can. And it takes time. It takes time.
Cecil in Springfield, he said, I have a question, but I want to tell you something. I listen to podcasts all the time. I usually give them about 5 minutes to 10 at the most, because after a while they get sort of boring. I have to tell you, I end up listening to your show the entire time. I'm a business owner. I don't want to get in trouble with the IRS, but things happen. So I just want to tell you how much I appreciate your show. My question is, I keep hearing about Fresh Start program. Is it real and does it really work?
It's a term of art, but it doesn't mean I can call them up and say, let's give this guy a fresh start. They did relax some of the rules to make offers and compromise easier. They wouldn't file liens from $5,000 to over $10,000. But for the most part, it comes down to one thing, Steve. What is your client's ability to pay the tax back? So no matter what you call it, Fresh Start, and it's been around now, I think, for more than 10 years, it still comes down to proving to the IRS that you don't have the ability to pay it back. It takes several hours to determine what that is, but the short answer is this, and I tell people this in the initial consultations. If there's money left over at the end of the month after you pay the household expenses, Uncle Sam wants it. So, obviously, the more money you owe and the less you make, the more likely you're not going to pay the whole thing back. But I had a guy in Nashville, owed $500,000. He made $500,000 a year. But we got almost $200,000 of that to go away because we ran out the clock on collections. Then he paid the balance. So his return on his investment with my firm was well worth it.
This is from Jason in University City. Thank you for giving us a show like this. My concern is I'm getting up in age, and if I make a deal with your company to pay the IRS off, and for some sad reason I pass away, can the IRS go after my wife?
Not if it's not her liability, no. And they can't go after your kids. Now, they can go after your estate, but they may not do that. I mean, it happens a lot of time where it's years later and, the time there's nothing left in the estate, so they got there too late. But no, if you filed married filing separately, or if it was your liability prior to the time you got married, it is not your wife's liability. They cannot go after her. They cannot go after your children. That's why I tell people all the time, they want to help out their kids in their business. I had a guy, he's in his 70s. He's paying the IRS for the kid's debt. I said, that's your retirement. It's not your debt. You cut that out. And so that's what he did.
Wow. Well, first of all, I want to apologize. I've probably got another 50 questions here. I appreciate you people writing your questions in. Our show is only 25 minutes. We're going to be doing another show next week. I believe it's our San Antonio show. And then on the first Monday of every month at 9:25 Eastern time, we do our national show. Tell people how they can reach you.
Well, Steve, you can go to my website because I can't keep up with all the phone numbers. Go to LanceDruryLaw.com. We have local phone numbers in all our offices in St. Louis, St. Genevieve, Nashville, San Antonio, and Houston. We also have a toll-free number. And so go to LanceDruryLaw.com. There's a lot of great stuff there. You'll see the testimonials, and all our numbers are there. Give us a call. We'll help you out.
Lance, again, he's with our national show is the first Monday of the month. Lance, I got to tell you, where you've taken this show, I've been doing this for 17 years. I've never seen this happen before. I'm just so blessed the Lord brought you to us, and we will see you next week.
Well, and I got to tell you, Steve, you're the one who reached out to me. And I am so thankful that we did this. I mean, it's just great. I love this. I love the questions.
People love you, Lance. They love your honesty and your knowledge, and that is so important, and that you're going to be there for them. That's the most important thing.
Well, that's what I'm here for, Steve.
This is Lance Drury. We're going to go to a break. We come back. We've got another great show with our estate planning show.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.